Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Alain. I'm here on this Saturday with Mickey, even though it's a book Saturday. And the books we're going to talk about this week, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, classic by Stephen Covey, Catching the Big Fish by David Lynch, Casino Royale, the first James Bond novel by Fleming, and Garfield Makes It Big, book of Garfield comic strips. Those are the books on today's list that we will be covering because I like to read. I enjoy reading. I think it makes life more enjoyable. And I want you to read as well. Hopefully some of the books I share on Saturdays will inspire you to read those or read something else. As long as you're reading, as long as you're enjoying it, as long as you're learning something once in a while as well. That's what I enjoy reading for. Sometimes purely escapism, enjoyment. Other times learning things to apply to my life to be more exceptional, to be more safe. Things that I try to share with you as well. So let's talk about the books this week. First one up, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is an old copy on my shelf that I've probably read a couple times way back when. What I just finished reading and sort of sped read it, because some of it was just reviewing, but I did this on the Kindle, the infographics edition, which was sort of interesting because, it had some of the different infographics and pictures that were not in the original text. Things such as, you got, different graphics and things like that throughout the book that, do help visual learners, help give you a little different perspective, some of the high points. There was also a brief question and answer in the back of Stephen Covey, thinking about the book from that many years forward and if he wished he would have changed something or not. And I liked that he said, no, he would leave it as it is. And that there were just a few of the habits he would go in deeper, which he did in subsequent books, like First Things First. So if you have not read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I strongly encourage you do. Whether it's you pick up an old paperback or something at the used bookstore, you can find them. You can find them at the new bookstore too. They're still in print. It's a great book. Get it on a Kindle, maybe the infographics version on a Kindle if you're a Kindle reader. Solid principles that will last a lifetime. This book was relevant when he wrote it. It's relevant today. It's going to be relevant years and years from now. Very good information to help you live a better life, be more successful, be more happy. I can't recommend this enough. There's a reason that it's been a bestseller for so many years because these timeless principles are so important and can help you. So that's what I want to say about that book. Put it on your reading list if you've never read it. Review it again if you have. Going to say good morning to Jay and Vicky. Appreciate you guys being here. Hope you're having a great morning. The next book that I just recently finished, Catching the Big Fish by David Lynch. Meditation, Consciousness, and Creativity. This is a book of really short little essays. I mean, each little page to 2 pages is sort of its own little essay about something. And he talks about his meditation journey. He started meditating many, many years ago and has meditated daily for most of his life. Talks about the creative process and some of the films and TV. I was a fan of Twin Peaks. And so I've liked David Lynch. We have a connection. He was from Missoula. He lived in Missoula and Spokane when he was younger. So I just found this sort of an interesting read. And it makes you think about things a little differently. Sort of where he was thinking about things and how he maybe got some of the creative ideas and how meditation helped him through his life and so forth. Learn a little bit of things. So it was an interesting, quick read. It's short, easy, but I enjoyed it. Next one up, and I want to get through these quick because I got to get out in the mountains with Rocky before it gets too hot today. We're heading out as soon as I'm done with this. But the third book, Casino Royale, Fleming. Interesting story about this book. Way back in the 70s, living in North Dakota, my dad was still in the military. I found a box of books, and it had some of these James Bond books. And I had to take them home. They were being given away for free. And these were in my dad's library for ever since. When he passed away a few years ago, going through all of his stuff, I found these James Bond books in his library, and I brought them and put them in my library because I had never read any of the James Bond novels. I've seen every movie, some of them more than once, but I'd never read a James Bond book by Ian Fleming. So I brought these 4 home, and they've been in my stuff since my dad passed away, and I finally said I'm going to read James Bond. So I read this. It's the very first James Bond novel, and I have to say I enjoy the movies better than the book. Can't say that with a lot of things. There are books that I enjoyed way more than the movie. When it comes to James Bond, I've enjoyed the movies more than I enjoyed the book. The book was okay. You can definitely tell the time that it was written. This was back, I believe this one was in the 50s that he wrote this one. Copyright 1953. Different times than today. Different style of writing than today's thrillers that I enjoy, like Brad Thor, Vince Flynn, some of those, Barry Eisler, people I've talked about here on the show. So I liked it. I mean, it's well written. It's just different. And I enjoyed the movies better. I'm going to read the others just to give him a try and see where he goes, because this was his first. And then, donate these, because I'm not going to keep novels, as I've mentioned. But that's what I thought about James Bond. Movies are better. But I'm glad I finally read this after finding it so many years ago. It probably was 78 or 79 when I found these and brought the books home. And they've been sitting all that time and finally read them. Finally read one of them. Going to read the others. And the last book, I had a number of these Garfield books on the shelf back in the back. And I'm going to read these and donate them as well. Fun, quick, light read. If you like Garfield. If you don't like Garfield, oh well. But Garfield I find very humorous. And actually, the cartoon on the very last page, I'm going to do an episode about in this coming week before I take this book and trade it in or donate it. So you can stay tuned for that. It's going to be a self-defense safety lesson out of Garfield Makes It Big. Yeah, you want to find out what that is? Stay tuned to Coffee with Alain, because it's coming up in the next week. Won't be tomorrow, but it'll be sometime in the next week. I'm going to do a safety and self-defense lesson based on the final strip of this book. Dixon says, Garfield loves lasagna. Eric Bam loves pizza. Yep, you got that right. But then again, it's Eric's business. I think Eric makes pretty good living because of pizza and the products, his pizza liner that he sells. So he better love it, right? So a recap before I run off and hit the mountains with Rocky. Recently finished 7 Habits of Highly Effective People for the whatever-th time. I've read it multiple times throughout the years. The first time way back, probably in the early 90s, I think. Right after I got out of the Army is when I read it the first time. Great book. Cannot recommend this enough. You can check out the Kindle version that I just read, or get a paperback. You can find used copies. You can find them wherever, new copies. It's a plentiful book because it is so good. Can't recommend that one enough. The David Lynch, Catching the Big Fish. If you're a David Lynch fan, it's a good little read. If you're not a David Lynch fan, I don't know if you'd enjoy it as much, because it is pretty personal about David Lynch and the films that he made and meditation that has helped him and so forth. I am a David Lynch fan. I loved Twin Peaks. I enjoyed it. Good little quick read. James Bond. I'm a fan of the movies. The book, not as good as the movies. We'll just leave it at that. Garfield, funny as heck. I like Garfield. If you don't like Garfield, you wouldn't like the book. If you like Garfield, these collections are fun, quick, easy reads, and we're going to have that self-defense lesson from this one. Those are the books that I wanted to share that I recently finished. Stay tuned next week on Saturday. We'll have more books. Until then, going to have some different programs to help you stay safe, to help you be exceptional, to help you get more done in your life, to help you enjoy more and stay safe doing it. Until tomorrow, have a spectacular Saturday.